So hello, I'm Erin. I'm a psychology major. This is my senior year, so I shall be graduating. And I have an interest in working with children, and I enjoy nonverbal behavior. So my topic is on mimicry and its emergence in childhood. Um, so what is mimicry? So mimicry is typically something that is done automatically and subconsciously. We don't normally know we're doing it, but it is just mirroring someone else's behavior. So sometimes if you're leaning in forward, the other person will lean in forward.
I'm sorry, I think I forgot to screen share the slides.
It's okay. It's typically done more with people that they like. These are called in groups and out groups. And the more closer that you are with someone, the more you'll tend to do it. Okay, yeah, sorry. And it happens with in groups and out groups. So in groups are people that are similar to you. This can be with race, gender, that kind of stuff. And out groups are people that are not as similar to you. And it starts to develop in early in infancy. So as soon as you're born, it starts to happen. So we'll start with infancy. Starts with the mother usually because that's the person that you see and that you with like 24/7. And it starts with like simple gestures. So you'll see it with babies sticking their tongue out, usually like back and forth. When you're a mother, you tend to make these faces back, and so the child does it back. And a study found that by I believe Jones, found that as the child develops more motor skills, like flailing their arms around and moving their legs, the more they are able to mimic. So it develops a lot faster. And play is a huge part in mimicry. So as the baby starts to move around and starts to play, the more likely that you are to see mimicry. There was a study done by Fawcett and Lozowski that had where they used play as a example of this. So they had two different ways they did this. They had it through self-led play, so the child got to choose a toy, and then they also did it with the parent, and they found that when the parent did it, they were more likely to mimic the actions, and they were the more the child mimicked the actions, the more that they were willing to engage in the play and wanted the play to last longer. So it's great for social settings and like having the child be more engaged. And then we move to toddlers. So as toddlers, they're usually more exposed to different situations like other toddlers and stuff. So at this point, you kind of want your child to be around more people. And so they start to gain some kind of understanding on social cues, whether they know it consciously or not. And again, it continues to grow and becomes bigger. And there was a study done that actually, this was really interesting, that used attachment styles. So they had their parents take a inventory test on what kind of attachment style. So there's like secure and avoidant and that kind of stuff. So they found that those who had more avoidant attachment actually responded to sad faces a lot more, because they found that typically avoidant style children have a lot more turbulence inside. So when they see it, they are likely to empathize with it. And there was another study by Dunn Clark, and where are they at? This was done having people like they were having the toddlers watch these videos of shapes being ostracized. And what they found was that the more the shape was ostracized on videos, that the child was more likely to mimic that shape and the movements it did, because they were trying to correct the ostracization. So they were like kind of building that rapport with the shape and like trying to fix that ostracization. And then school age. So this is where mimicry really becomes huge, and that you see it a lot more just because they're now in school. They're around children all the time, and it helps like really with the play. So another study did with the in groups and out groups, as we spoke earlier, they found that they did this where they were having people, they had children choose their favorite color, and there was a group of people that also wore that color, and that was like their in group, and then the out groups. And they found that to see if kids were kind of aware of like in groups and out groups, and they found that when they were within that in group, they mimicked more than when they were not in that. So when they were with other people who weren't wearing the same color, they did not mimic as much as they did with the people wearing the same color. And then really interesting, they mimicry with not humans. So there was a study done using robots that found that kids would still mimic a robot that would teach them through their voice and through their actions. So they had a robot come in and teach them like different words and stuff. And they found that the closer they got with the robot, the more they would mimic its voice and do its like little moves. So in conclusion, mimicry is very important. It sets the stage for social skills and helps build and maintain relationships. And it also helps us learn and engage with others as well. The more that you mimic someone, the more empathy that you feel, or vice versa. The more empathy you feel, the more you mimic someone else. And it develops through childhood and has really significant effects. And yeah, those are my references. Is there any questions?
I just realized this is going to work way better if Dr. Farley runs the microphone around while I get the other slides ready. So Dr. Farley.
Question back. I had a quick question about mimicry with things that are non-human. Have you found that, or has there been research about children mimicking their pets too, not just robots, or were the robots kind of humanoid and that's why they were being mimicked?
So Dr. Farley might be able to better answer this, but from what I've seen, because of how often they spent with that robot and it did have humanoid features, it did mimic them more, but I would not be surprised if kids mimicked pets the way that pets mimic us sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Do you?
It does make sense. And know that it's something that apes do as well. Apes will mimic each other. Other questions for Aaron?
No way, I want that. Tell me more about the like robot study. That's like the wildest thing I've heard all day, and I've heard a lot of wild things. How did that work?
So so they had these robots. Originally, they actually were not doing it for mimicry. They were actually going in for education, but they saw a lot of mimicry and within it. So these robots, it was for education to see if robots could teach children and if like they would get the same concept. And they found that, yeah, they definitely, like the robots had a pretty significant effect as long as they built rapport with the child. If there was no rapport, they were not learning. So yeah, it was pretty interesting.
So that's actually the part. What does it mean to build a rapport with a robot?
So like you want to build a relationship with children. That's like one of the bases. Like if you're ever going to work with children, you have to build some kind of relationship. So I think the robot began with playing games. It was programmed. I know it was using AI, programmed using like games and stuff that it would play with originally with the child. That way you could build that relationship that way. And then it turned into more games with like education and stuff.
All right, thank you again. Woo!